Hello, Salam, Bulla, and g'day. Michael Gallis here for A1 TV, Healthy Living Habits. Magic Monday, we're back, and so good to see you all. Hope you've had a good week in these challenging and very unique times, and ready to sit back and relax as I take you through my favourite books and the way that they've influenced me in my life and inspired me to do the things I've done. Also joining us today, we'll have a very special guest in my young son Benjamin, who will talk about his special book and why it was so interesting to him. So many thanks again for all your support. It's great to be getting support from all over the world, across Facebook Live, Instagram, and also through the channels related to A1 TV. A big shout out to start with for all my friends in Lahore, especially Nahid Zia. Who's one of my favourite my favourite fans. I think she's the #1 fan for the show. And we've been discussing all week here in Melbourne. We're in the second week of stage 4 lockdowns, which includes a curfew. Also means kids are at home doing their schooling. A lot of businesses have been closed as we attempt to get the coronavirus under control. And I know that's been happening all over the world. It's a hideous disease, and it's something we're learning to live with and trying as best we can to get rid of it so our lives can return to some sort of normal. So a big shout out to everyone out there. Stay positive. Just want to say how well that everyone is doing in the world to this brand new unfortunate style of living, especially if you're in lockdown. Keep washing your hands, keep social distancing, keep listening to the medical advice, and as long as we all stick together and control what you can control and stay positive. I'm only taking it one day at a time and concentrating on keeping my energy levels up and happy and being grateful. Think about if you're starting to get a little bit depressed and a little bit upset, and that's okay too, but take the time to reach out and talk to people. It's okay to be not okay. Reach out via your social media, reach out via the phone, reach out by yelling through your window if you've got someone walking past or someone's come to visit you. And that's the way that we will get through. Keep communicating, keep talking to each other, and keep enjoying the opportunity to be alive. List what you're grateful for. That's what I am doing regularly, and that keeps me in a very positive frame of mind. Another thing that keeps me in a very positive frame of mind, Tommy the Turtle from Bundara is here joining us today, and you can see I've been in a good paddock during isolation, and I'm looking forward to next week, fitness. My oldest son Tommy's taking us on a half-hour fitness regime so that I can start to stop eating and start exercising, which is very difficult to do in isolation and lockdown. But it's something that you can make the effort, you can get it done. Lots of books I've read throughout my life and really enjoyed the opportunity to gain knowledge from, but especially in the later years of my life, to gain inspiration from. And a wide range I read in relation to sport, in relation to politics, in relation to humanitarian aid, in relation to children's books, and in relation to looking forward to taking you through some of my friends, normal people. They're not celebrities, but they've got amazing stories to tell, and they've written some books in relation to that. And I gain great inspiration and great courage and great understanding about life and the world through these books that I'm about to show you today. The first one is called Lion, and I'm just going to read from the back here. I'm going to read for you some excerpts through the different books as well. And we're going to break up today's Healthy Living A1 TV show by, I'm going to read you a couple of my favourite picture story books that I've had throughout my life as well. Lion, extraordinary tale in relation to Saru Brieli, a young Indian man who got lost when he was 5. Now I'm going to read the back and the blurb so that if you're not aware of the story, it's simply quite extraordinary. And the reason I like it so much is because despite insurmountable and impossible odds, this young man was able to find where he lived and his family years and years later after he was separated from them as a 5-year-old boy in India. It says, when Saru Brierley used Google Earth to find his long-lost hometown half a world away, he made global headlines. Saru had become lost on a train in India at the age of 5. 5 years old. Can you imagine getting lost at 5 years old? I can't. And then getting lost in India with a bustling metropolis, millions and millions of people. Not knowing the name of his family or where he was from, he survived for weeks on the streets of Kolkata before being taken into an orphanage and eventually adopted by a couple here in Australia. I'm coming to you from Melbourne, Australia. Despite being happy in his new family, Saru always wondered about his origins. Where did I come from? I'm grown up in Australia, but I'm obviously of Indian heritage. Who are my families? Do I have brothers? Something that we all certainly take for granted in a loving household. And he spent hours staring at a map of India on his bedroom wall that he'd been given. And then one day, when he was a young man, the advent of Google Earth led him to pore over satellite images of the country for landmarks he recognised. He was on a train with his brother and they were going somewhere. And for some reason, his brother got off the train and he stayed on the train and fell asleep and ended up in the city, hundreds of kilometres away from his village, and was totally lost and couldn't find his way back home. And eventually, thanks to Google Earth, he was able to remember landmarks, water towers, things that he saw on his train journey to work his way back to his village. And then, quite extraordinary, and one day, after years and years of searching, he miraculously found what he was looking for, this big water tower. And then he set off on a journey to find his mother. And don't want to be too much of a spoiler, but it's an amazing ending and something that you'll certainly really enjoy the opportunity to read. And adapt it to your own life. This man was able to, out of millions and millions and millions and millions of people in India, decades later, find his family. Despite those odds, he had the courage, he had the tenacity, the resilience, and the determination never to give up, because he knew how special it was to find his family. And he also knew that his mum and his dad and his brothers and sisters were waiting for him and wondering, where did he go? He got on the train with his brother and simply disappeared as a 5-year-old. So extraordinary book. And if you're interested in reading it, you certainly won't be disappointed. Lion by Saru Brierley, a young Indian man who's now living in Australia, got lost as a 5-year-old. Nelson Mandela, one of my certainly inspirational heroes. He went on to become South African president and unfortunately grew up in a time of apartheid and severe racism against Africans who were non-white, and was eventually jailed for speaking up against the apartheid system, where it was unfair and extremely horrific living in such a society for non-white Africans. And he was jailed for over 20 years. And when he was released from jail, extraordinarily, he had no hate and no bitterness towards his captors and towards the white South African political regime called apartheid that put him there. And he was able to bring his country together from both sides and both cultures, and to move forward and to be positive. And if we can all learn a little bit from Nelson Mandela and put that into our lives with such empathy and compassion, we will make the world certainly a better place. And that's what we need at the moment right now, all of us to stick together, to be compassionate, to be empathetic with each other, so that we can fight this disease and continue to get our world back to normal. I'm just going to read to you in relation to Nelson Mandela, the blurb at the top of the book. Nelson Mandela was born in Transkei, South Africa, on the 18th of July, 1918. Like we're back at school, isn't it? You wouldn't believe I'm a school teacher, would you? He joined the African National Congress in 1944. Big shout out to everyone from Penley Neston Grammar School, where I taught for 22 years, and also Genazzano College, Gilson College and Over Newton College. It's the greatest job in the world, teaching, to have that opportunity to work with kids and to educate them and improve them and hopefully inspire them to go on and do great things in their life. I've been very blessed in my life to have those opportunities. And I thank all the schools and all the kids and all their parents and families for that opportunity to be a teacher. He joined the African National Congress in 1944 and was engaged in resistance against the ruling National Party's apartheid policies for many years before being arrested in 1962. Mandela was incarcerated for more than 27 years. So more than 27 years. He was locked up in a cold, damp, wet cell with tiny bars and a tiny window for over 27 years. Probably the size of most of our laundries, with hardly any food, disgusting conditions, taken out to break up rocks every single day. And yet he used his positivity and his strong mental health to get through, and went through day by day. Mandela was, during which his reputation as a potent symbol of resistance to the anti-apartheid movement grew steadily. Released from prison in 1990, Mandela won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1993 and was inaugurated as the first democratically elected president of South Africa in 1994. He's the author of the international bestseller, Long Walk to Freedom, and sadly he died on the 5th of December 2013 at the age of 95. A great man. He wrote, "The truth is that we are not yet free. We have merely achieved the freedom to be free, the right not to be oppressed. We have not taken the final step of our journey, but the first step on a longer journey, an even more difficult road. For to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that represents and enhances the freedom of others. The true test of our devotion to freedom is just beginning. I have walked that long road to freedom. I have tried not to falter. I have made many missteps along the way. But I've discovered the secret after climbing a great hill. One only finds that there are many more hills to climb. Isn't that true in life? I've taken a moment here to rest, to steal a view of the glorious vista that surrounds me, to look back on the distance I have come. But I can rest only for a moment. For with freedom comes responsibilities, and I dare not linger, for my long walk is not yet ended." Nelson Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom. What a great man of our world, and a great opportunity to learn in relation to courage, empathy, compassion, resilience, determination when you read his amazing stories. And he's someone that I certainly enjoy reading about and learning from. There was a great Australian, very similar to in standing to Nelson Mandela here in Australia, called Edward Weary Dunlop. And I'll explain why he's such revered here in Australia. He's a national hero, much honoured and greatly loved, and he died sadly in July 1993. He was a brilliant student and sportsman, qualifying as a pharmacist and a surgeon, and even represented Australia at rugby. Weary turned his back on a surgical career and volunteered immediately when war broke out, Second World War in 1939. He joined the Second AIF and served in Palestine, Greece, Crete, Tobruk and Egypt, before sailing to Java with his medical unit in 1942. Captured by the Japanese, he spent more than 3 years as a prisoner of war in Java and on the notorious Burma Thai Death Railway. His care for his men under his command and his defiance of his captors in the face of brutality, starvation and death made him a legend across Australia. He returned to Australia in 1945 and Weary dedicated his life to caring for former prisoners of war. A pioneering cancer surgeon, he built strong relationships between Australia and her Asian neighbours. His lifelong commitment to community service fulfilled a vow made in captivity that he would never refuse any request his country made of him. So in spite of such horrific circumstances through the Second World War where he was captured and horrible things in prison camp happened to him and also to the soldiers that were captors, Australian soldiers, when he was released, he used what he'd seen to motivate him to not be like that and to be the opposite. And it's just an extraordinary man, and a man, again, of courage, empathy, compassion, resilience, determination, and in spite of horrific circumstances, was able to survive, and most importantly, when he left, was able to thrive and make the world a better place. So that's a great story. If you're interested, Edward Weary Dunlop story. Another man who I certainly thought was simply extraordinary, Louis Zamperini, and a film has been made up. He's the hero of the major motion picture Unbroken that came out a few years ago, and he's got some great philosophies on life in relation to, I'll just go through the things that he went through as a young fella, Louis Zamperini, and why this book is so extraordinary. And if you are looking for something to read, you certainly will be inspired by what he did in his life and how he used, again, mental toughness to get through each day and survive and then thrive once he came out. Louis Zamperini lived one of the most amazing lives imaginable. As a young boy, he was a troublemaker, but his will to succeed drove him on to becoming an Olympian at the 1936 Olympic Games. With the outbreak of war, Louis volunteered for the army and was thrust into a violent combat of the Second World War as a B-24 bombardier. Whilst on a rescue mission, Louis's plane crashed in the Pacific Ocean, leaving him stranded and drifting 2,000 miles in a small raft for 47 days with 2 crewmates. Against all odds, he survived. Imagine being 2,000 miles from anywhere. No one knows you're there. You're in a tiny raft. You've got hardly any food, little water, and you're trying to survive, which he did. Unfortunately, it was into the fire and out of the fire and into the frying pan because he was captured by the Japanese. And Louis courageously endured torture in a series of prison of war camps for over 2 years. Horrific torture. Not only did he survive this ordeal, but then he went on to spend the rest of his life helping others. Again, like Edward Weary Dunlop. Do you see a theme here? Again, like Nelson Mandela, that they endure these horrific circumstances, but it's due to their compassion and empathy that when they're in an opportunity to have freedom, that they thrive to create a better place, to not be bitter, to not hold against the people and the captors and the things that have happened to them, but to show love to others, to create this world, to create a better world, and hopefully for people to learn and be inspired to go out there and do the same thing. This book was completed 2 days before Louis's death at the age of 97. Don't Give Up, Don't Give In contains a lifetime of wisdom and humour. Louis shares these wonderful lessons he've learned during his life, previous untold stories, inspirational insights on how he overcame adversity and found the courage to never give up and never give in. I'd like to read to you a couple of pages. I've just got to make sure, where did I've turned the page a few times here. Make sure I've got the right, find the right turn page. I hope. Yes, hope. It's about hope. There's the soldier who says, the war's going to be over in 3 months. If he keeps saying that, no matter if he's right or wrong, and if he isn't in the wrong place at the same time as a bullet or a bomb, there's a good chance to survive mentally intact. But the guy who sits back and says, yeah, you guys are a bunch of optimists, the war's never going to end, has less of a chance. I had a friend just like that in prison camp. He'd sit in the yard and stare at the ground. He wouldn't talk to us. When we'd quietly trade gossip we'd heard, the Normandy invasion is taking place. The war's going to be over before Christmas. He'd refused to participate. After the war, the army sent me to Florida for my rescuer. And big shout out to everyone in America. And we know you're doing it tough there with the coronavirus, and our thoughts and prayers are with you and the country as well. And we thank you for tuning in today on A1 TV for Healthy Living Habits, where we're talking all things books and how healthy it is to gain information and inspiration and education all through the power of the written word. I'm old school, so I like the book, not the Kindle or the iPad like my kids certainly enjoy doing, and like the texture and the feel of the pages. And it's really helped me during this lockdown, this corona lockdown here in Melbourne, to escape from the outside negativity and immerse myself in the world of the person that I'm reading about. After the war, the Army sent me to Florida for my rescuer, and that's where I met my future wife, Cynthia Applewhite. One day we were sitting around at the beach club with a bunch of Air Corps guys discussing how the human mind functions in war. And suddenly I see that very guy from my prison camp come in. He sat by the pool. He stared at the ground. He hardly talked. Nothing had changed. He may have made it home alive, but to me, he didn't make it. This can happen in any stressful situation. It's not just about war. You must have hope. It rejuvenates your whole being. You can't allow negative things, even if you do know your chances are slim. I'm not saying that's easy to do, but that ability to envision the road to successful completion is what keeps you alive. Hope provides the power of the soul to endure. What a great line. What a great sentence from Lewis. Hope provides the power of the soul to endure. Isn't that the truth? Where there's hope, there's life. Now, very lucky, and Lewis, absolute legend. If you haven't seen the movie Unbroken or read his stories, I urge you to go out and to do so, and you'll be further inspired to continue on your life journey and to show resilience, compassion, empathy, and love for all those you meet, no matter what the circumstance. Very lucky to have a special guest today on A1 TV. My young son, Benjamin Gell's going to have to shift a few of these books over to get Ben to come and join us. Ben, you're going to have to squeeze in here. Try not to touch the camera because we might be in a bit of strife. And, jeepers, Benny. I've got to get out and do some physical fitness work, don't I? Yep. Tommy the Turtle here is looking a bit big from Bundara. How have you been? Good to have you on A1 TV. Thanks for joining us.
It's been good to be here.
It is good to be here. And how have you been handling lockdown here in Melbourne?
Pretty good. Just very bored though.
Yeah, not much fun. You haven't been able to see your friends, but a bit of a rumour going around the Gallus household, which where I live, that you're doing your homeschooling in a tent in the backyard.
Yeah, it's too stressful in the household.
Is there a little bit too much noise, and is the dog barking? Is it the dog's fault?
Everyone's, I reckon.
Everyone's fault. So we need to be a bit more quieter for you, do we?
Yeah.
No, it's great you've been able to find that space in the backyard and to do your schooling. And that's what it's all about at this time, is adapting to finding a way through in any way you can. And Benjamin's way to do his schooling is to put up the tent in the backyard, and that's where he sits. And good on you for doing that, Benny. Now, books. What's one of your favourite books?
The Treehouse Stories. I love those books.
All right, the Treehouse Stories, written by Andy Griffiths and Terry Denton, two really famous children's authors here in Australia, and they read how many of these 104 story treehouses are there in the series, Ben?
I think about 12 and more coming.
About 12 and more coming. So, and why do you find them enjoyable? What do you enjoy about reading?
I like the adventure that Andy and Terry go on, which is the name of the authors, and I also find them quite funny.
Yeah, so it gives you an opportunity to go into another world and to be entertained. These books, doesn't it, Ben?
Yeah.
Now I'm a bit worried because I'm a big Carlton man, as we know, and you're sitting there in the Adelaide Crows footy top there. I don't think we can have that on. We better just hide that. Just going to hide all that. Why are you wearing that, Benjamin? What is happening? We're back for the Blues, not Adelaide. Boo the Crows.
Well, Adelaide aren't going too well, so
they aren't.
Give them some support.
Oh, you're going to give us the support. Good to see. But there is a story behind it. Where did that come from, that jersey?
Eddie Betts gave it me.
And he's a great Carlton man. He was at Carlton. He went to Adelaide. Now he's back to Carlton. And we went over to give some footballs out to support the Adelaide Crows Aboriginal footy program. And Phil Harper, big cheerio to Phil. And Adelaide Crows, as you said, are doing it tough, Ben. Where are they sitting on the ladder? Last on the ladder, and a big shout out to everyone in Adelaide who's watching via A1 TV and Facebook and Facebook Live. Yeah, dead last, not having a good... it might be because Eddie Betts came back to the Blues,
And most of their players left.
Most of their players left, did they?
Yeah.
Oh, where'd they go?
No idea, but other clubs.
Oh, other clubs. It's sometimes what happens when the organisation is not going so well. So we wish the Crows all the best, and a big shout out to all our Crows supporters. But you want a good team, you bag for the Blues, the mighty Blues. Benjamin, been great having you on A1 TV. Thanks for your support, and
Thanks very much.
all those kids out there, if you're looking for a good book to read, Terry Dent and Andrew Griffiths, the Treehouse series is really enjoyable. So you keep smiling, Benny, and we look forward to. Normally Ben's our cameraman and does a great job. We look forward to having you on A1 TV next time.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for having. Good to be here. Thanks for having us on, Benny. Another one of my. If I can just find it here, it's just gone missing. There it is. A great man in Australia, Neil Danaher, played AFL and also coached the Melbourne Football Club, and came from a big family of footballers who all played AFL. Has been struck down with a horrendous disease called MND, and he decided through great courage that he was going to promote and raise awareness of this disease and get as much funding and donations as he could throughout Australia and around the world, so that we could find a cure and that people wouldn't have to suffer like he's been suffering of late. Now, Neil Danaher, I'd just like to read a little bit from his story when all is said and done, and it goes like this. I'd always wanted to make something of my time on this earth, to have my hands on the wheel of life, not just be a car crash waiting to happen. The thing about life is it's short and precious, and there's nothing like a terminal illness to reinforce that. I've lived a bloody good life, and I'm grateful for all the people who have supported me along the way. Those who have given me the faith to believe that tomorrow always has something to offer, knowing that my time will run out sooner rather than later. I've turned to distilling my philosophy on life, examining my beliefs and attitudes, challenging my own thinking. I know a lot of things that aren't important. I also know that many things that are important, but alas, I know far too few of those. The ones that I do know are in this book. I know I might not get to wrap that arm around my grandkids, so I'm writing my thoughts down in these pages. Maybe these thoughts will provide cause for others to pursue and reflect as well. I'm not interested in preaching or telling people how to suck eggs. That's a bit of a Australian colloquialism expression. I don't want to come across as being holier than thou. Believe me, I'm not interested in setting up a cult and saying, come and join me. I just want my grandkids to have a think about where they're at and where they're going. I would say, now, upon reflection and drawing on my own varied experiences, this is where I've got to in my thinking. This is what I've learned up to this point and what I think is worth sharing. Thinking about what makes a good life is the hardest work there is, which is probably why most of us prefer just to keep muddling along. It sometimes requires an intellectual rigour and reflection that we all find hard to pursue in our busy lives. Now, maybe you'll think I'm full of CRAP, which means rubbish, and I wouldn't argue with you. All that would tell me is that you believe in something different. So what do you believe in? And why? And how much are you prepared to accept your beliefs and values fundamentally influence the way you live your life? If so, to what extent? And further, that they influence what you do when life throws any manner of circumstances your way. See, I've got you thinking. Challenge your own beliefs. Challenge mine. I know this much. If you can hold your beliefs and values to the Bunsen burner and stand up to the heat, then you know you're backing the right ones. Lots of really common sense, down-to-earth ideas, philosophies, strategies about life from this great man, Neil Danaher, and an inspiration of mine and all those that certainly know him. I'm going to finish off today by reading one of my childhood books, The Diggity's Dog. And this book was actually bought by my mum and dad, Jeff and Lois, before I was born, 1967. I was born in 1971. And it's got a great theme to it, which I think all of you will really like. as I read through. The Diggity's dog. For sale. I was the saddest dog you could ever see. Sad because no one wanted me. The pet shop window was my jail. The sign behind me said, for sale. I was tied. Oh, we got a bit of a... That's a bit better. I was tied to a bare hard floor of stone. I could not even dig for a bone. I was living all my life alone, a dog that no one wanted to own. And then one day at 4:30, Sammy Brown came in the door. Sam took one look at me and cried, why are you tied up here inside? I've always wanted a dog like you, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'll take you out to the farm with me, you'll play outdoors where you should be. I felt as happy as a pup when Sam paid the man and picked me up. He rubbed my ears, he scratched my head. I think I'll call you Duke, he said. Sam gave me a collar, he gave me a lead, and we left that shop at tremendous speed. Look at him go. He's got freedom. We went a long way out of town. We came to the farm of Sammy Brown. It was the nicest place I'd ever seen, a pretty white house in a field of green. And in that shade of the apple tree, a special doghouse just for me. Next morning, while Sam did his chores, he let me run and play outdoors. I've never played outdoors before. I've always lived on that hard floor. I've never run on nice soft ground. Now I bark with joy as I ran around. Sam looked at me and scratched his head. Duke, you need some friends, he said. He blew his whistle, he blew a blast, and many dogs came running fast. I've never met a dog before. Now I was meeting 6 or more. They walked around and looked at me. They looked me over carefully. Then at last I heard them say, he's one of us, he'll be okay. One dog, who wasn't very big, suddenly began to dig. The others started digging too, but that was something I could not do. I'd never learned to dig in that stone. How could I on that hard stone floor? I tried to dig, but alas, I couldn't. I wiggled my paws. My paws just wouldn't. I fell on my ear, I fell on my face. I fell on myself all over the place. Did he give up? No. The others said, Duke may be big, but he's no good. He cannot dig. They stuck their noses in the air, they walked away, they left me there. I'll teach you, Duke, cried Sammy Brown. I'll show you how to dig deep down. He crouched beside me with his hand, he dug a hole in a pile of sand. I tried it too, but still I couldn't. I wiggled my paws just wouldn't. I'd never learned to dig in that store. How could I on that hard stone floor? Sammy sighed, I almost cried. My eyes and nose were full of dirt. My paws and claws and elbows hurt. I had a pain across my back. I never knew I'd get the knack. Sam felt sad and I felt bad. If only I could make him glad. We both knew I'd never get it right. Sam and I couldn't sleep that night. So when the sun rose in the sky, I thought I'd give it one more try. I wiggled one paw. I saw it could. I wiggled the other. I saw it would. I could dig with my paws. I could dig with my claws. I felt no pain across my back. I knew at last I had the knack. Sammy Brown looked at me. He saw me digging happily. Good for you, Duke, Sammy cried. I knew you'd do it if you just tried. So I dug farther, I dug faster. I dug and dug to please my master. I dug up grass, I dug up weeds, I dug up daisies, I dug up seeds, I dug up the fence, I dug up the gates, I dug up the garden of Mrs. Thwaites, and she was not very happy. I dug up the rooster, I dug up the hens, I dug up the sheep and the pigs and their pens. Oh no, I think Duke is gone bananas. I dug and dug, I could not stop. I dug up the barber in his shop. I dug up Mr. Rodney Thayer sitting in the barber's chair. I dug my way right through the town. I dug a lot of buildings down. I was having so much fun, I dug up Highway 81. I came to a hill, I dug to the top, but all of a sudden I had to stop right in front of me, looking down. There stood my master, Sammy Brown. Sam didn't smile or pat me on my head. He only glared at me and said, I'm sending you back to that animal store. They'll tie you to that hard stone floor and you'll never dig any more. I couldn't run, I couldn't hide. Dogs came at me from every side. And then suddenly I knew there was just one thing left for me to do. I ran away from Sammy Brown. I dug a hole that went straight down. I left him standing up on top. I dug and I did not stop. How deep I dug, I could not tell. But soon I found I dug a well. Mud and water up to my chin, what a fix I now was in. I started to sink, I started to yelp. Help, help, I cried. Help, 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 help. I could hear them up above my head. I could hear every word they said. One dog growled, he wrecked our town, that serves him right. Just let him drown. But Sam cried, Duke, you've been bad. You've made me sad instead of glad. But we're not going to let you die. We'll get you out. At least we will try. Then at last I heard him shout, maybe we can pull you out. Dogs to the rescue. Slowly, slowly down they came, each dog part of a long dog chain. I reached up, I touched a nose, I felt them lift me by my toes. Slowly, slowly, bit by bit, they dragged me out of that pit. I thanked the dogs and Sammy Brown, then I started back towards town. I knew I had to dig once more to fix up all the things as they were before. That's what I did. I dug back the gates, I dug back the garden of Mrs. Thwaites, I dug back the roosters and the hens, I dug back the pigs and their pens. I dug all day in the summer sun, I dug back Highway 81. I dug back everything in town, everything that I'd knocked down. Today, now, when I dig well, I'm careful now, I'm useful too. Sam lets me plough. He'll never send me to that store or tie me up on that hard stone floor. My dog friends watch and wonder why they can't dig as well as I. And that is the Diggity's dog, and teaches us a few lessons about helping each other out, forgiving our sins, and working together in a constructive way. And that's what we all need to do at the moment in this coronavirus affected world. Thanks very much for watching Magic Monday. It certainly has been great to be with you in your homes around Australia and across the world. Can't wait to see you all again next week. Thanks for all your support. Shaba Shaba, Mazzy Karoo, and Hooroo. Michael Gallis, A1 TV, signing off for another week.